It's episode 50! Yay! Drumroll, cheer! Woo! We're in episode 50 of 365, which is about 14% of the way through, and that is so exciting. Thank you for listening to me talk for the past 50 days, and hopefully to the end of the year. Let's get into today's episode. A couple of days ago, I stumbled upon a post by Debbie Levitt about she had asked Claude AI about what it thinks about AI tools doing research. And so I asked Bard, now known as Google Gemini, the same initial prompt that she had, which was there are many AI tools that claim they can act as your company's users and help you know what people want. There are AI tools that claim they can interview participants for UX research, and there are AI tools that claim that they can analyze UX research data better and faster than a human. Can you please tell me who is the target audience for these tools? So she had a long conversation with Claude AI, and she put that into a Medium post, which I'll link in the show notes. And then I asked Bart that prompt that I just read, and the response included some very vague and generic statements about how, quote, AI tools shouldn't be seen as fully replacing experienced UX professionals. Rather, they are potential augmentations to complement human research capabilities, end quotes. And you see these kinds of comments often when people talk about AI, and especially when people are like, oh, AI is going to like take away jobs and things that people are doing and all of those things. And people are always like, AI is never going to replace human beings. It's only going to enhance the work that we do. Or AI is an enabler that helps us to do our work better or easier. Or AI doesn't replace people, it just makes work more efficient or faster. Or AI takes all our random tasks that we don't enjoy and allows us to do things that we really want to do and that really make an impact, and so on and so forth. And I think that's maybe yes, but also no, because roles will disappear. Like everybody talks about it, like some roles will never, like no role will ever disappear. Every role will remain the way it is, but only better because we now have AI tools that we can use to do those things. But everything we know about how technology has evolved over time does not support that line of thought, at least not entirely. In the early 90s, when there were people whose job was to do manual switching, where you called a number and then you'd be like, connect, you want to talk to someone else, and then they connect you to that number, literally by pulling plugs and connecting them to sockets, holes, and things like that. And that was a job for many years where mostly young women were employed to do that. And in 1920, telephone operators were roughly 2% of the US female workforce and 4% of nearly 3 million young white American born working women. But some years later, some companies started rolling out mechanical switching systems, which means that you could manually dial people from your house using the rotary phones. And so they didn't need human operators anymore. And by 1978, being a telephone operator was technically no longer a profession anymore. So that's a clear case of like the evolution of technology literally wiping out an entire industry. And that took some 50 years. And we know that like changes compound and accelerates faster than before. And yeah, most of these people were able to find other jobs. However, the people who would have grown into those jobs, like the people who were coming after them, had to look for new jobs to do. It was easy for them to find new jobs. But the women who were already doing the telephone operator jobs were more likely to go into worse jobs. Like the jobs that they had after were less profitable, they were earning less, basically. The ones who would have taken over those jobs were more easily able to find other jobs without any issues. But the ones who were already in the field as telephone operators found it really, really hard to find jobs afterwards. And even the ones that were able to found not really great jobs. And you see that in different spaces as well. Some roles are not entirely wiped out, but they greatly diminish. And in the same Vox article where I read this essay in 2023, they talked about how even now, with how technology has evolved, or even recently, the number of travel agents in the US fell by like almost 50% in 20 years, simply because of like Kayak and Google Flights and those kinds of companies. So imagine what will happen now that you have ChatGPT or Gemini, that you can literally plan your vacation very easily and simply with. Hi, quick correction. I said in the early 90s. What I meant to say was in the early 1900s. So 1900, not 1990. In the early 1900s. Bye. I think that most of us are living in this fantastical land of fantasy land where our jobs remain exactly the way they are, even with the evolution of AI and whatever new technology will come up, and would just be happier and better. But I don't think that that's true all the time. Like the example that I just shared with the telephone operators, travel agents, and many other roles, you will see that opportunities will reduce in certain areas and gradually fade away, like it happened with telephone operators over like a 50-year period. And as we'll start seeing, I'm sure, with travel agents, for example. And people also say that for every role that disappears, a new role is created. And they make it sound like it's a one to one thing, like literally, as this role disappears, a new role will be created to replace it. However, that's not true. It's not a one to one replacement. Nobody really knows how that replacement will occur. People have made projections and theories and thoughts based on their knowledge of their industry or whatever. But nobody actually knows. It's all predictions. Like they could be wrong and they could be right. We don't know. The first thing is, like I said, it's not a one-to-one replacement. The second problem with this, for every job that appears, a new job will for every job that disappears, a new role will reappear, is that the skills for disappearing jobs and skills for new jobs are probably very different and may have little to no overlap. Again, with the example of telephone operators, the people who would have gone into those jobs found it easy to get new jobs. But the people who were already in that telephone operator role found it much harder to transition into a new role, even with training. It's so hard. Like if you've been doing something for so long and then suddenly it doesn't exist anymore, then to retrain, it's not easy to retrain people because as at the time where the technology is evolving and changing, you don't even know what you can retrain into. Like, what's next? And imagine experiencing that. Then you're like, what if I start this thing again? And then technology removes it from being a valid job or source of income. Do you get? And then the third thing that I don't like about the for every role that disappears, a new role will be created is that most people in disappearing jobs will have a higher learning curve to get new jobs in the new jobs that will be created. So, I'm not saying that the evolution of technology is a bad thing or that people should not develop new solutions and all of those things. I think it's great. Like, I just think even about the internet and just how having the internet created so many opportunities for so many people. So, of course, with new technologies, there'll be new opportunities, but then there's definitely a lot of people who will be left behind if we don't do things to mediate that and to step in to help them reskill, upskill, or learn new things. And with AI in particular, it's so hard because I remember a couple of years ago reading articles about how the industries that will be most affected by new technology, robots, all these things, and AI and everything will be manual labor, quote unquote, blue collar work. And now the tide has turned, and a couple of years later, we have generative AI tools, and everyone is saying that the jobs that are most likely to be affected are white collar jobs, knowledge worker jobs. And this is just back to saying that nobody actually knows how any of this will play out. Everyone is just hoping to be on the right side of the divide, or maybe not a divide, but on the right side when the quote unquote dust settles. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing that there's technology that is doing things quickly or not. Some of them make terrible mistakes, but that's by the way. Um, yeah, so AI will make work faster, but it will also make a lot of work obsolete, and it may not always make work faster because I also read that some companies are not really happy with the outputs that some of the AI tools they've been using is giving them because they have to do a lot of rework. But the point is that we all really need to think about how we can adapt, even though we don't know what we're adapting for, to be honest. And when you think about even with OpenAI's new video generation tool, although it has a lot of issues, it looks really good. Like at first glance, like if you're not looking really deep, it looks okay. But some people say this is good, but good for who? And bad for who? Because it's good for you if you don't have to pay thousands of dollars weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever, and you're a small person, small business, individual creator trying to do something, and you need to pay thousands of dollars for licensing videos, stock videos, and stock photos. It's good for you to be able to generate videos cheaply. But if your trade is that you make stock videos and photos, and that is how you earn an income, it may not be so good for you. So we really need to rethink how we think about AI, new technology, and how it will impact us because, like I said, nobody actually knows. We're all just speculating. But what we know for sure, based on history, is that people's jobs will go away. Many of these people may not be adequately supported to retrain, to reskill, and many of these people will not be able to easily transition into whatever new roles might be created. But yeah, that's it for today. Bye. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of A Couple of Things. If you enjoyed this episode or found any part of it insightful, don't forget to share with your friends on your social media, and be sure to leave a comment or a review if you can on your podcast listening app. Thank you.